Back here on Focal Point, Steve Dace filling in for Brian Fisher, who told me he was going to be teeing it high and watching it fly. Is that a golf reference? I don't golf.
I believe so.
Unless you count Tiger Woods golf on PlayStation. That's the closest I've gotten to golf. People ask me all the time, how can you be somebody that works in politics and media and not golf? That's where you guys have all your meetings. It'd be like a part-time job. I'm an obsessive compulsive about winning. I have to win at everything. So if I take up golf, it's gonna detract away from my parenting skills. So I'm gonna make that my next kid. So I'm gonna wait till the kids move out, then I'll pick up golf. So we're filling in for Brian Fisher while he is out golfing today. We do a little thing on our show every Friday. It's called This Week's Sign: The Apocalypse is Upon Us. Our intrepid producer Rebecca Maxwell is responsible for this portion of the show. And on June 28th, she wrote about a story out of the state of Louisiana, where the Department of Justice was defunding a young Marine Corps down there for recognizing God. So we want to find out what exactly was going on and where the story's at now. Who better else to get that information from than the governor of Louisiana himself? Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal joins us. And Governor, my name is Steve Dace. Thanks for joining us here on AFR today. How are you?
Steve, it's great to be back on the air with you, and thank you so much for having me. Let me just say for the record, like you, I'm not a golfer. I don't know how people do it. I don't have the patience, and so it's not a sport for me either. God bless those that have the patience to go out there and do that.
No doubt. And I can't do anything halfway, so I know when it starts, I'm going to invest too much time in it. So I don't become the worst dad of the year. I will start golfing after the kids move out. But let's move on to this story. What's going on with the Department of Lawlessness? The Injustice Department there by Eric Holder was targeting one of your young Marine Corps on a religious liberty case in your home state. What can you tell us about it?
Steve, if you need yet another example about the war against faith, if you need yet another example about the importance of fighting for religious liberty here in America, here is a great example. Up in Bossier Parish, northwest Louisiana, home to the Barksdale Air Force Base. Great people up there. Also part of the Haynesville Shale, one of the country's first natural gas shale plays. They've got a program. The Sheriff's Office for 10 years now has been running a program called the Young Marines Program. It's started by the U.S. Marine Corps Youth Drug Demand Reduction Effort. It's been going on nationally, it's going on since 1958. And now it is spread all over the country, all over the world. They've got literally 10,000 kids, 3,000 volunteers in 46 states, in Germany, Japan, and all over the place. And for 10 years they've been doing this program, serving 1,000 kids over those 10 years. Sheriff Whittington is now the sheriff. He didn't start the program. He's continued the program. They cite an 88% success rate. It is a great program. They get the kids off drugs. It's a week-long kind of a boot camp-style program for at-risk kids. On July the 4th, I had the privilege of going up, standing with the sheriff to defend this program. After 10 years, the Department of Justice out of Washington, D.C. said, we're not going to send them $30,000 as they've been normally doing to help fund this program, in part because of voluntary prayer in the program. And let me read you a line from the oath the young Marines have to take. They have a young Marine obligation. And let me just tell you part of what's causing the problem here. They take an oath, and it says, I shall never do anything that would bring disgrace or dishonor upon my God, my country, and its flag. Based on that, based on voluntary prayer, and remember, voluntary prayer, the Department of Justice said, we're cutting off your funding. They said, if you want this funding back, you have to agree to all kinds of restrictions. You have to sign this statement limiting prayer. I'm so proud of the people of northwest Louisiana. I went up there and I said, look, our religious liberty is not for sale, not for $30,000, not for $300,000, not for $3 million, not for 30 pieces of silver. It's not what our principles are worth fighting for. And I've got to tell you real quickly, they had a graduation ceremony for a group of young cadets. And one of these little girls, a little teenage girl who'd been through the program, who'd turned her life around, this program was a big part of that, she has got a summer job. And she felt so strongly about this program. This little girl who's not making a whole lot of money gave 10% of her summer earnings so that this program could continue. Just with passing the hat, passing of a plate, we collected more than $20,000 just that one day from the people in the room that showed up on July the 4th to say, we stand with the sheriff, we stand with the state, we stand for religious liberty and against the federal Department of Justice. But this is a very, very serious issue. This is just one example of the war that's being waged against faith in the public sphere. A few years ago in Louisiana, in southeast Louisiana, we had the ACLU and others sue a school board, again, for having prayer at the beginning of their school board meetings. The language they used, they said they don't want the kids to be accidentally exposed to prayer. In that case, they make it sound like it's contagious, like it's some awful disease. And I always tell people whenever they listen to me speak, be careful. You might get some prayer on you, and that's a good thing. As a father, I've never once, Steve, gone home to my wife and said, I'm just worried that our kids are getting too much prayer today. I'm just worried that at school and at church and with their friends, I think they've had too much prayer. That's never been a concern for me. Anyway, this is just a ridiculous assault on religious liberty, and I'm so proud the sheriff and others said, you know what, our principals aren't worth the money. If that's what they're demanding, they can keep their dollars. We'll find another way to continue this program.
Well, Governor, in some respects, they are correct. Prayer is contagious. That's exactly why they're trying to stamp it out, if you know what I mean.
Well, and here's the sad thing. They really, truly, they want prayer and they want faith to be contained within church. They want it to be contained within a certain time on Sunday morning. What they don't understand as Christians is we believe this impacts our entire lives. I mean, it's really, truly transformative. And I believe in the power of prayer. And I'm so proud these kids are turning their lives around. I'm so proud that their parents understand the importance of stepping in at a young age to get them back on track. An 88% success rate. And you're talking about kids who are going on to complete their school studies. They're staying off drugs. They're working at summer jobs. They're listening to their parents. I mean, it's just, you look at these kids. They were marching their uniforms on July the 4th. They spent that whole day, this holiday, to stand up for a program they believed in. It'll make you proud. And it's a great example of what we need more of in our society. But, Steve, this issue, I believe, you saw it with the Obamacare, with the ACA Act, and forcing religious individuals as well as companies and other organizations to violate their own beliefs, their principled beliefs. You've seen it now with the friction with the court's rulings on marriage. I think this is going to be an issue more and more prevalent. And part of the challenge is we got this elite, whether they're in government or the media, they don't understand. They truly don't. I don't. It's almost like we're talking past each other when we talk to some of these folks. I don't think they truly understand the power of prayer, and I don't think they really understand the role of faith in everyday Americans' lives. And they kind of look at us like we're these strange people. They don't, it's kind of like they want to poke us and probe us, and they want to study us. We're like an exotic tribe to them. Who are these people that they want faith to be this neat, compartmentalized thing that we do in our own private time that doesn't go and spill over in the public square. And what they don't understand, that's not how we're called to live our faith. I mean, nowhere in the Bible does it say, Jesus doesn't say, well, look, I want about 2 hours of you, 7 days a week. I'm going to give you 6.5, 6 3/4 days off. I just need 2 hours on Sunday morning. That's not what he says. And so I couldn't be more proud. I tell you what, just standing in that little sheriff substation with all those kids and all those families, there were hundreds of people. They stayed there hours to show their support for this program. It is frustrating. It's maddening. The Department of Justice keeps changing their story. They cut off the funding. Then they said, we'll give them the funding without telling folks they were demanding a written statement giving up voluntary prayer. It is frustrating and maddening, but it's also exciting to see people to respond to this challenge. And the sheriff tells me he's gotten emails from all over the country. He's gotten emails even from Europe telling him to stand strong, not to sell, not to give out his principles, and he's not going to. And the program will continue without the Department of Justice, and it'll continue saving those kids and helping serve those kids.
I think it's important, too, because whenever I post about stories like this on Twitter, for example, or social media, Governor, I will hear from the haters out there that will say, well, I thought you guys were for limited government. And, of course, we would both be limited government guys, but this is straining a gnat to swallow a camel. If this is your idea of cutting waste in government, then maybe you need to recheck your priorities. This is clearly about targeting people of faith. There's not another motivation for this.
Oh, absolutely. The Department of Justice made it very clear that the money, it's almost like they're trying to bribe the sheriff to sacrifice his principles. They made it very clear to him if they'll give up or if they will limit the prayer and put it in writing. They've made it very clear if he will put it in writing, because they got embarrassed by this, and so they were trying to backtrack and say, oh, no, we'll still give them the money. But what they won't say, what they won't admit is what they were privately telling the sheriff is you've got to sign this statement. You've got to agree not to have this prayer. And this is a program that's been in place for years across Democratic, Republican administrations. So it's not about them. They're not trying to cut their budget. They're not even pretending this is about cutting their budget. They made it very clear what offends them is the mention of God in the program. What offends them is the idea that there's a healthy, that there's the component of voluntary prayer. And again, you listen to the pledge that the kids have to take. Another part of what the members have to agree to, and again, this doesn't offend me. I don't think it'll offend you or your listeners. It says the kids have to say, I'll keep myself clean in mind by attending the church of my faith. I'll never do anything that would bring disgrace or dishonor upon my God, my country, and its flag, my parents, myself, or the young Marines. God bless them. I wish every kid would be able to say that. But, the predictable groups, the ACLU doesn't like this. They want to get rid of this. What they don't understand is, that First Amendment, and this is the fundamental difference. The Founding Fathers said our rights our rights came from God, not from government. And this is such an important point. You know, the Bill of Rights, the constitutionally protected rights, what we're told is government can't violate the rights, the freedoms that God has endowed upon us. It's not that we get these rights from the government, and that's such an important distinction. It's not freedom from religion, it's freedom of religion, but what the other side doesn't seem to get, you know, we're not dependent on government. We're not created by government. I mean, again, you go back to the Founding Fathers, they understood we were endowed by our Creator. We were endowed by God Almighty with the human dignity. We were made in His image, given these rights. It's just amazing to me, but I think these debates are going to get more and more important. Again, as you got more and more people you got folks that are pushing for a secular view of our country, pushing to take faith out of the public square. You're going to see it in Louisiana. We've adopted very strong conscience clause protections for healthcare providers and others. But this is a debate nationally, and you see it. You've seen in many states where churches are being forced to choose between their values, their beliefs, and participating in different programs, whether it's helping with adoptions or other programs. And I think this issue becomes more and more important given the assault on faith. And today it's a little sheriff in the little state of Louisiana, but tomorrow it could be your program, it could be your company, your business. And that's why I tell folks we've got to pay a lot more attention. Look, I worry about the national debt. I worry about Obamacare. I worry about the government spending. I worry about the government intruding in our rights. I absolutely think, just as we're so focused on fiscal issues, we need to be worried about these issues of faith, these cultural issues. These are just as important when we talk about leaving an inheritance to our kids and leaving the great country that we inherited from our parents.
Great stuff, Governor Bobby Jindal. We appreciate it. We'll catch up with you again. God bless, brother. Thank you.
You as well.
All right, we'll come back. Hour 2 is next. Stay tuned.